From what I've heard, I'm not an experienced diver, but
amateur diver.
I'm an amateur diver. I have divin into a pool.
Out for the...
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Mostly Harmless.
With Matt and Sarah.
Yes.
We're back.
And today actually is a very special day because when we're recording this, it is our 6th wedding anniversary.
6 solid years. I'm not sure what medal is for this anniversary because it's like the diamond anniversary, the
paper,
wood. I think 5 was the
whatever.
wood or 5 was the paper. I don't know. That stuff's antiquated nowadays.
Because we got married in December, Matt and I, we get each other ornaments for our anniversary.
Right, because the way everything lines up at the end of the year is there's Sarah's birthday, expensive. The anniversary was expensive until we parlayed that into a more meaningful gift. And then Christmas, which is not just expensive for each other, it is several children and many other people.
Yeah, because also growing up, Christmas was always a big deal in my house. And
I think for most people, for a lot of people it was. Not for most people,
the
but for a lot of
holidays,
people,
yeah. My mom always got us an ornament every year, and we collected those until I was in my 20s. The whole idea was that when we went off and started our own life, we would have a box of ornaments from our childhood to start our lives with. And then
That wasn't what happened, was
that
it,
is
Sarah?
not what happened. So when I was living in New York, I believe, my mom put a bunch of stuff in storage, and she put all of our Christmas ornaments in storage. And the storage locker unit thing got not raided.
It could be considered a raid. Maybe the FBI raided it.
Maybe it's the FBI.
They confiscated your memories.
What is Donna up to? But yeah, it got
robbed.
Robbed. Antidote.
Robbed. Raided.
It got raided, and all my childhood memories got stolen. So actually what I wanted to do, because we kind of started that tradition when we started dating, was kind of collecting ornaments where on trips we went on and things. And this year I kind of just wanted to do a uniform monochromatic Christmas look, and you were like, no way, Jose.
Veto.
Yeah.
Well, because there's like, this is all just, just our family workings, but there's the rigid, perfect Christmas that must be adhered to, and that's never been my vibe. And it's like the same people who have, like, when you go to someone's house, and I'm not saying it's not beautiful, but you see someone with a Christmas tree and it is like symmetrically perfect. The lights are everywhere in the right spot. It's like, that's great, but it's fake. It feels false.
Yeah.
Even like Rockefeller Center's Christmas tree is like a mishmash of like, everything that they put on it. It's not perfect. And having something just like, and again, it looks great. It's perfect for like a storefront. And I'm not shading anybody who does this. I grew up in I thrive in chaos. I grew up in the chaoticness of, hang an ornament there. Oh no, it fell. Well, now it's there. Now it's where it landed. That's where it lives now. And, I was like, yeah, okay. I didn't even really entertain the idea because I could just think about, I like the idea of having ornaments for memories over the years, to be like, okay, we got this one for this and we get this one for that. So that was where I was on that.
You still have your childhood memories, though.
I mean, you still have your childhood memories. They were not stolen from you.
The memories themselves, no, but the ornaments, they were. And the thing that was so about the situation is that that they were after more.
Yeah, what did they think?
Stuff
They were
that was
diamonds?
actually worth something. So likely our ornaments got thrown in a dumpster or something somewhere.
That still wilds me out because it's like, Okay, let's call it a smash and grab, but you know it wasn't. It's probably some dude who knew the dude that worked there and just looked the other way with the cameras, let the guy run Harry Carey.
Yeah.
The guy goes in there, sees a bunch of Christmas. You guys did not have piles of money in there. There was no safe.
There were no jewels.
No jewels, no diamonds. No. But the guy's like, oh, dope, Christmas ornaments. And watch, there's some lowly robber out there with your memories on a pitiful Christmas tree.
Stick ornament that I made.
I can't for the life of me understand why someone would like, you open it, you see all the Christmas ornaments. Even if, like, I can't even think of a Christmas ornament that is like worth money. Like my mom and my family had this, and my mom still has it. It's this like purple old ornament. It's like a bulb and it's like heavy. And it was like OG Christmas ornament stuff.
See, some ornaments are too heavy for these trees.
Well, and so
these
for
fake trees.
Yeah.
Maybe real trees. I don't know, with like actual branches.
See, having had real trees, that's not the case. Real tree branches are generally flimsier than the aluminum branches. But these old ones, they would just be like solid. And so that one, I'm like, I'm not going to say it's worth money, but on the scale of if you're going to steal a Christmas ornament, okay, maybe. But who steals Christmas ornaments? It's the Grinch. The Grinch went into your storage unit as a child. I must stop this Christmas from coming.
Yeah, it was really sad. So anyways, happy anniversary.
Happy
Matt.
Anniversary.
I love you so much.
I love you 1 million. That was what Penny told me in the car today. She said it started at, I love you 100. And I said, okay, well, I love you 1,000. Then she goes, I love you 1,000,000. And I go, all right. And then she goes, hold on, Dad, can I start over? And I was like, all right. She goes, I love you 100 million. And I'm like, bullshit.
Well, Matt, I want you to keep that in mind, lest you ever get the itch to fake your own death, which is what the Mostly Harmless take is going to be on today.
Welcome to a Mostly Harmless take of faking your own death.
Just don't do it. First of all, okay, so we're going to talk about the story of insert name here. His name's Ryan Borgwardt. And I will insert the little news spiel
clips
that gives the backstory on this, because we're just going to be talking about our relatively non-professional reaction.
Right. This is recent. Recent-ish.
Recent-ish. The story, and Matt, I'm going to try real hard to not talk over you. It doesn't play that badly when you're video watching on YouTube. It's kind of like, oh, they talk over each other. It's probably annoying, but like, we can deal. On the podcast, when you can't see us,
I would imagine.
It's like, shut the fuck up.
Right.
So
I get it.
We've taken that feedback into consideration.
We folded in the cheese.
Do not fake your own death, dear listener, and, ghost us, because we will never ghost you. Ryan Borgwardt, he went missing insert news clip here.
On August 11th, 44-year-old Ryan Borgwardt, a married father of 3, went out by himself to go fishing on a kayak on Green Lake in Wisconsin. At 10:49 that night, he texted his wife that he was heading to shore. But when Ryan did not return home that night, his family became concerned. Law enforcement jumped into action. Searchers began scouring the lake looking for Ryan, but he was never found. So as the investigation continued, law enforcement changed directions and began looking into Ryan's life. What they discovered was shocking. All the evidence seemingly pointing to a man faking his own death, moving money around, and communicating with a woman from overseas. All this leading to more questions about the mysterious disappearance of Ryan Borgwardt.
What a wild tale, right?
Well, I mean, it's full of magic and mystery, and something that seems like it would have been pulled straight out of a 1980s children adventure film such as The Goonies.
Well, and I feel like we need to put in here, we are still not a true crime podcast.
We're a little bit of everything.
We're a little bit of everything podcast. This just happened to be a story that I saw, and I was like, oh my God, we have to talk about this on the podcast. So...
yeah, it's wild.
for a one-night engagement. We are a semi-true crime podcast.
So we're a hodgepodge.
We're a hodge. What's that thing that craft thing that I bought? Mod Podge.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like a sealant.
Oh, okay, sure.
It smells don't spray it outside.
Huff that shit,
Don't
right? Get good and high while you watch this show.
Just spray it outside, yeah.
So this guy decides on a whim, as far as we know, as far as been.
I don't think I got people's ages, but this guy had been married. So I'm thinking he's in his 40s or 50s. He'd been married for 22 years.
He's like a decent looking dude. He's built like he's not like a ugly dude or anything like that.
I don't care if he's an uggo. Like the point was he was married for 22 years. His life seemed to be going great. 3 kids.
They show very many smiling pictures of him. And it's just a prime example of what you see versus what's really happening. So all the pictures they're showing is him and his family just having a grand, beautiful time. Big smiles, everybody's happy. But what causes one to decide to fake one's own, we'll call mysterious disappearance?
There's so many layers that I wanted to talk to you about this story. First of all, the dude had 3 kids. So when I first heard this story, I thought that this was like a several day saga, a 1 week, maybe a couple weeks. No. This dude goes missing in August. And the story is wild because what they determined he did was that he flipped his kayak over. Right. He inflates like a kiddie flotation device.
I took notes on this.
Okay. Matt is going to fill us in.
Of all the things that I saw with this, it is just a ridiculous scheme. Again, like as if you were watching the Goonies. It's like, honestly, here's how I'm going to do it.
Kind of reminds me of what they think the Alcatraz people did when they escaped from Alcatraz, but I think the conditions were probably more favorable in the lake in Wisconsin.
I was going to say, I don't think the
San
Alcatraz.
Francisco Bay.
So let's just go from A to B to Z on this one. Mm-hmm. So goes from kayak to a child-size inflatable boat, to an e-bike that he had stashed, that he'd rode for several tens of miles. I think it was like 70 miles.
I heard 70, yeah.
To Wisconsin, to a bus that took him to Detroit, to another bus that took him to Canada, to an airplane, to what I will just say is parts unknown, which we find out later is Uzbekistan.
Well, no confirmation that it's Uzbekistan, right? Like
from the video that we are referencing, they had an overlay that said Uzbekistan, so I'm not sure of the full validity of that, but I guess they don't really know where he is, so...
That is wild. That's
elaborate.
A harrowing tale, if I ever heard one.
It's like, I don't know.
Like, honestly, he's lucky he survived that. He didn't die trying to fake his own death.
No, none of that stuff is fatal. He took an e-bike to a bus to a plane like that. Like the hardest part would be figuring out taking your kayak, inflating this. I'm picturing an inflatable tugboat for children that he just rolls over into and then oars his way out. Like, none of this stuff is fatal, which is why if this was his own kayak, if a person owns a kayak, you have to understand that they would at least have a vague concept of how to swim. Mm-hmm. It's real difficult for someone who knows how to swim during normal conditions. It was not like midnight. It was not torrential downpour weather. It was just average weather. It's real hard for someone who knows how to swim to drown unless they are hit, tangled, or among other things. So even if he did flip over, which I've been on a kayak a million times, and you flip over, the kayak itself is wildly inflatable. So at the very worst, even if he didn't know how to swim, you could still grab onto the kayak. So nothing that he did was fatal at all, except for the fact that he purposefully put like his tackle box and like it was his IDs and stuff that he sunk into the lake. What else did he do in this hole?
Well, okay, so what we've learned from this story is that in 2024, and maybe he should have thought of this, It's incredibly hard to go off the grid.
It's very difficult.
Really hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got credit card transactions, internet presence, your phone tracks you wherever you go.
Even if you think you wipe something, you may not have really wiped it, which is what happened with this guy. So
good for if you're a criminal, you're less likely to get away with it.
So one of the true crime podcasts that I listen to, one of their taglines is to tell people to stay stupid, because it's like, that's how we're solving crimes.
Make it easy.
Don't be there. There really is no such thing as a criminal mastermind. They all do something eventually that foils their plans. So anyways, this guy, so apparently this lake, and you were telling me this lake is really deep.
So it's the deepest lake in Wisconsin.
Hundreds of feet
It was
deep.
230 something, I believe. I wrote 250, but then when I watched it a second time, it was somewhere in the 230 range, which is pretty fucking deep.
So this story, because one of the things we were discussing when we were watching there was this Vinnie Politan court TV special on YouTube. That's what I sent you to watch. Yep. And anyways, they interviewed this, was it a rescue diver?
So what had happened with this is that the search for, what's the gentleman's name again?
Ryan. We'll call him Ryan. His last name is hard
it's hard to handle. The search for Ryan had started to gain publicity, and they had, I would say, as much as asked for any sort of assistance that they could get. And there is a recreational diver that came to, and this happens. You saw it with the Chilean miners, or not the Chilean miners, the soccer team.
Yeah.
Where like recreational divers who are comfortable diving in extreme conditions volunteer to help.
Because that's,
go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off.
That's okay.
But that's a niche, right? Like not everybody has that expertise. And like we saw with the Thai diver story, like someone died attempting to rescue that team. So this is something you need to be certified, specialty, all that jazz.
And not a lot of police forces, even as far as Coast Guards, don't have these trained divers. So Coast Guard's going to have people who can save people in the water, and there are trained divers in the Coast Guard, but it's not like every single person. Because if you've seen, like, I'm just going to reference The Guardian, which is probably one of the greatest movies. I love that movie.
I already knew you were going.
You know, they're not scuba diving. They're saving people in horrible conditions. But to dive, and not just to dive, if you consider most average lakes, if you could even say that's a thing, are 20 feet, 30 feet deep.
I was going to ask, how deep are lakes usually?
Deep enough for boats, deep enough for Harry Carey if you really want to get into stuff, but usually not wildly deep. But that's why the depth of this 200 something feet is huge. Think about falling 230 feet. That's horrible.
I don't want to.
Then you think about, when I think about a depth of a lake, think about being at the bottom and looking up to where you would have to get to finish. So it's to get down, you have to step down, like as you're going down as a diver, there's all these different points you have to hit to level out and all this stuff. And only people who are truly comfortable with that and certified divers, that like you get certified at depth. So like I'm certified up to 200 meters and blah, 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 and all that stuff.
Okay.
So from what I've heard, I'm not an experienced diver, but
amateur diver.
I'm an amateur diver. I have divin into a pool. But so they don't have your regular average police force, especially in small towns and places that aren't like thriving metropolitan areas, are not going to have trained divers. So they put out the call for anyone who's comfortable in these things to go and help. And so this one guy heeded the call. He's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to do it. You know, I'm comfortable diving up to 200 plus feet. I'm ready to do it. He said that they brought in cadaver dogs that are able to smell, like even on the surface, the gas released from a dead body can still be can still be smelled by these dogs. So they have the dogs in the boats. They're going around. The dogs get a couple hits, and this guy goes in and he can't find anything. You know, and imagine you're down 200 feet. It's hard to find things.
Did the dogs hit?
They found, not obviously they didn't find a dead body, but they got what it is it's like they got traces of something. Okay, the dogs smell something, search here.
Maybe they are sensing
It's possible.
other dead bodies.
Well, then the divers went down the search, did not find multiple unrelated dead bodies. But, that's also could be sulfur or whatever's being released from down there. But it's enough of a smell that the dogs are tuned to,
Gotcha.
because what's releasing from these bodies is methane. So if there's a methane pocket underneath there, which is probably not uncommon, you might get a smell of it. That's what sets the dogs off. But this diver, they're talking to him, and we're at the point in it where they're all saying that, oh, well, how did you feel once you realized that this was all a hoax, and this guy, or not a hoax, this guy wasn't down there, it was all false.
It is a hoax.
Yeah. And the guy goes, well, yeah, it really sucks, but I'd be down to do this all again. I'd get on this ride again any day of the week. And it's just like, this dude is just happy to be there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he's probably got his CB sitting around all the time. Dude, it's like, anyone who can die, I'm there. I don't care what it's for. I'm going to be there. If there's dead bodies, count me out. I don't care if it's sunken pirate treasure, dead bodies, or if I'm just looking for nickels in a fountain. This guy's got his scuba gear going. He was real, because it was so wild. Because imagine you just spent days, I would imagine, of your life.
Weeks.
Well, this diver, I don't know if they spent weeks diving, of your life looking for a dead body. And then it's like, he's like, I'm excited. I'm going to find this guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to get him. And then would you do it again? They asked him. In a heartbeat, essentially, is what I would be there with bells on the next time. Basically putting out the feelers. Anyone who's looking for dead bodies, call me. I'm old Jim Scuba Diver.
So what I found really interesting with this story is that they didn't immediately think anything suspicious about this guy. Like, this family has been under the impression that this man drowned in this lake for months. It's not until, I think they said 8 weeks into the investigation, that his body never surfaced. So Lacey Peterson, after I don't know, a few months, 4 months or something like that, her body was found. It surfaced. Naya Rivera, when her body surfaced after 5 days. Bodies surface.
And that's the thing. If there is a body, it is going to be found.
Unless he was weighed down and some nefarious
weighed down
other thing at play.
Or if they were so that's the other thing. You want to fake your death, go to Florida. You trip and fall off into a side, off the side of the road, you can get eaten by an alligator. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff where there's plenty of nobody. Well, they were in the Everglades, don't go to a lake where there's only so much space. Being a deep lake, there's still only so much space that your body could be in.
Right. So the sciencey people came in and did all their science.
Oh, the sciencey people did their science?
And they said that X plus Y square root of pi and all that stuff, his body should have surfaced by this date. If he hasn't surfaced or there's no sign of him anywhere, let's start looking into his life. So then they pull up his computer and he took out a life insurance policy. He's talking to some woman in Uzbekistan. So what they determined was that he really tried to go off the grid. I'm actually curious because people do go into witness protection and stuff like that, where essentially their old life is dead.
Well, but they do, but that is also rigidly structured by the government in a way where they scrub your ID, they get rid of as much evidence of your existence, and it's also used significantly less than people think it is used in TV. It's not we got 3,000 people a year, and that might be an average number, but people say, oh, why don't I just go to WITSEC? It's you just can't not everyone can disappear because then everyone's gone.
Right. I would think it would be a specific type of person would be a candidate for disappearing in such a manner.
Usually someone whose lives or the lives of their family are in immediate danger, as in you spoke out against a full-on gang, and even though you're testimony got so-and-so and so-and-so arrested. There's plenty of people who want to take retribution, and the only safe way is to exchange your testimony, which is usually pivotal to it has to be like, you're the linchpin.
Yeah.
And that is exchanged for safety. And the only way to keep you safe is to move you far away and change your identity and whatever. And then you have to adhere. You can't do any, you would not be able to have a YouTube show. Like, you know what I mean? You can't just have a social media again. You got to go underground.
Well, so that's my question is, if you did have to go into witness protection, this has nothing to do with this case, because that is not the guy's excuse or anything like that. But say you had to go into witness protection and you had a wife and 3 kids. Is that even possible?
No, they take the family from what I've seen. And I will say 100% this is from my TV show experience.
Right.
But they don't just, because it's not just you. And I'm speculating, but I would also feel like unless your testimony was exactly what they needed and no one else could provide it, they're likely not to go for the guy whose whole family needs to be moved as well. It's going to be, if maybe Bob, who has not a lot of people, it's a lot easier to move Bob than it is to move Fred, who's got like a very active social media following, which I'm imagining, like many other things now, it is probably much, much harder for the government even to put people into anonymous witness protection. So, you know, that is in of itself a whole different animal from what we're talking about. This guy just, from what it seems like from this whole story, is that he got, it feels like he got baited by a Nigerian prince over email to go.
Well, okay, so that is the other aspect of this story that seems kind of sad. So this guy has been missing since August. I think it's 8 weeks later, so around like end of September,
right.
October, they start looking into alternative theories to the case. Like maybe he didn't drown, maybe he purposefully disappeared, and they find all of this information out about him, the life insurance policy. He wiped his hard drive. He was talking to a woman overseas and all this stuff. And then his passport gets scanned in Canada. So now they've determined he took this path or whatever.
Yeah, you got to be real careful on this. You're trying to be invisible, but you can't fly or go anywhere internationally without a record of it. So this dude had to, when he started this, there was a clock. I mean, granted, we had 8 weeks, according to this, before they had started these alternative searches, but you have to get to where you're going before they put out a bolo for you, you know, like be on the lookout for this guy. Because the second that ID gets scanned after that's out, they're like, oh, he's here. We found him. He's trying to get on a plane. Very simple.
So eventually he surfaces. So, and that's what brings us to making the story recent, and why I was initially, I misunderstood. I thought that this was a recent disappearance. It wasn't a recent disappearance, but it was a recent resurfacing, because in mid-November he sends this, what do they call it, proof of life video.
Yeah, wasn't it saying that they found out that he was out and about somewhere, and they reached out to request a proof of life video, which are generally reserved for kidnappings and
hostage,
the like. Yeah.
Hostage situations. So he sends it, and he seems extremely, I mean, obviously he's not jovial. I don't think anyone would expect him to be jovial, but he seems sad, kind of downtrodden.
Here, we're going to put that up just so you guys could get an idea of what we're going to talk about.
Good evening. It's Ryan Borgwardt. Today, hello, Matt. Today is November 11th. It's approximately 10 a.m. by you guys. I'm in my apartment. I am safe, secure, no problem. Hope this works.
So in that video, you guys can see it's almost like a disillusioned like the guy's just like, yeah. It's like a single dad showing his son of like a teenage son of a recent divorce, his new shitty apartment somewhere. Cause he's like, yeah, it's my 1-bedroom apartment. And he's not smiling. He's not happy. So his overseas tete-a-tete, if you will, did not go according to plan, it would seem. And he's just like, here's my apartment. Does a little video, he's showing there's no one with guns to his head. But the one curious part of it is that at the end, if you'll notice at the end of this video, he goes, I hope this works. And that's what throws up the flares to me that say one of a couple things. One is he's trying to come up with some kind of cover to be like, I hope this works, in a way of maybe they'll believe I've been kidnapped. Oh. Right. That's one option. Okay. I hope this works. The service in this country is awful. I hope this gets out. That's another one. And then there's the, I hope this works to get me home because I don't know. He has a phone. He can take the video. He's, that's not a hand camera that he's got. Like, I genuinely am wondering what I hope this works means. To me, it's, I feel like the guy, I'm not going to call him a mastermind because it really seems like it's like Kevin McAllister grew up and came up with an escape plan from the country because, inflatable boat to an e-bike to a bus to a plane to blah, blah. I'm not going to call him a genius, but it's like, I feel you're this far into it. You got to stick to your game. You got to stick to it. Now they've found me. Come save me. Because the family still wants him back for some reason.
Well, what I took from the video is have you watched the show Catfish in any kind of regularity? Okay. It's every finale culmination of a catfish story when they find out that the person is not who they thought they were.
It wasn't Katy Perry.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
She's still talking to me. I know.
That's so Katy to do. So Katy. That's a really
fucked up episode.
Good episode of Catfish. Anyways, so it just reminded me, it's like, okay. But now this guy has gone so far. He literally killed himself to go overseas to parts unknown to be with some woman he didn't know. Clearly, this did not pan out the way he thought it was. And now he's like made his bed. He has to lie in it.
It's like, so this guy decides to throw everything away and go overseas. He's not going to Ireland, not going to Scotland. He ends up in Uzbekistan. And says, hey, and you know what? There's an ass for every seat. Go wherever you want. No one's upset with you for going there. They're upset with you for faking your own death and leaving. But why that? Just go shack up with someone in Burbank. Just you're going overseas. You're going out of your way, and you can't collect on your own life insurance policy, right? It's a pretty big red flag when you say, "Hi, here's my ID. I'd like to collect my life insurance, please." Ignore the fact that it's my life insurance.
Now, did he take out a life insurance policy on himself to kind of say, this could be for my family as like a going away present or something?
I don't think
was he trying to get the money? In
the level of selfishness that you have to abandon your family to apparently abscond with someone in Eastern Europe, I doubt you're laying the foundation for no hard feelings. Like, hey, hon, sorry about all that. It didn't work out over here in Eastern Europe. Do you mind if I come home? It just doesn't seem like that you could both be so selfish as to want to completely abandon your family, but also be like, I'm going to set them up. So in my opinion.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that according to law enforcement, his family would like for him to come home.
I mean, I would not. If this were you, if you fucked off to Eastern Europe to go have fun, I'll hang out with the kids. We're good. You've lost your right to the children, in my opinion, at that point.
Fair.
I think that's fair. And, I am not one under any circumstances to fight child custody in any reason, except for this one. I'll say I'll put an asterisk on my thought process for that. But no, if that was you, I'd be like, no. And the only reason I would want you back would be to hope that you would come back so that you could face some kind of charges. But even in the video that we were watching, it's kind of hard to nail down what you could charge this guy with, because they even agree in this video that it's not illegal to abandon your life and abandon your family and leave. Now, you did throw up some things that caused an investigation, but what I was thinking about with that is it's not like you put a bloody handprint on the side of something and when I was murdered, you left your stuff somewhere and you dropped off and stopped answering your family's phone calls. Granted, there was an investigation, and as a taxpayer, I would hope that you are going to somehow penalize this person for that in any way that you can. But I'm not sure that legally he has broken any laws. He wasn't fleeing from any kind of, as far as we know, he wasn't fleeing from any kind of bench warrants or anything like that. He just abandoned his family, which people do that every day, and none of them get arrested for it. He just went to very elaborate means to do it.
I mean, Cody Brown abandoned his family and still has a TV show.
As you do.
As one does. Right. So this actually got me thinking, because the Jussie Smollett case was just in the news again, because I think the Supreme Court of Illinois or something just overturned his conviction. So he got convicted of perpetrating a hoax. Basically,
which he did.
So the big debate here, I guess, with this Ryan Borgwardt guy is, what do you go after him for? Do you waste your time going after him for anything? My opinion would be, well, obviously you would want to go after him to recoup the cost of they spent months looking for him, trying to recover his body.
And one of the things about that is they were saying in this, the guy that was on the police that was investigating was like, they were vacillating on whether it was worth pursuing outside of the country. Once they realized that he is outside of the country, they said, this has already been an expensive endeavor. The guy's realistically committed. Are we going to waste more money looking for a person who's not dead?
Okay. So then you expended all this time, energy, resources in the investigation, like similar in the Jussie Smollett case. The reason why I bring that case up is because I don't know if it was the attorney general or one of the legal actors in Chicago really wanted to go after Jussie for the cost of the investigation. Like, you wasted our time. Like, how dare you?
And it was a blatant waste.
Well, okay. So how much money are you willing to spend of taxpayer dollars trying to recoup taxpayer dollars? And
it's a cycle, because also the trial and all that will cost money. And if somehow he gets exonerated or found not liable, then he does not have to pay anything. And not only did you waste the initial investigation, you wasted the money for the secondary investigation. Then you wasted the money for the trial. And it is for my tax dollars, I think this is a huge waste of money. And the second they realize this guy is out, if he shows up and he ends up swiping his credit card downtown Orlando, go to town. But if you're going to waste more of my money on a dude that's committed no real crimes besides wasting taxpayer money, which I agree is awful, but you're going to waste 10 times more extraditing him from Eastern Europe. And then you have to find someone who, and I imagine this would go to jury probably. It would, in that case, if you get a judge, you have to do the whole trial and all that stuff. That's going to cost a real shit ton of money and time.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it worth it? I don't think so. The dude sent you a really crappy video. It looks like his life is crappy. I think he's in the prison that he built for himself. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, maybe he's gotten what he deserves. He got catfished and is now living alone. And not what, it seems like a pretty bare bones apartment.
Did not look like it had a PS5. Did not look like it had anything to write home about.
Did not look cozy.
No.
He didn't look as he would have been surrounded by love like he would have been had he been home with his wife and 3 children.
Which again, he looked perfectly happy. So I'm wondering what magic saying this, and I'll say woman because he showed up and it was Igor standing at the door being like, get in the hotel room.
No,
really.
I don't think anybody showed up. Probably nobody showed up.
Well, even it's just, and then, oh God, I just threw my whole life away for this.
Yeah.
Just imagine that in any circumstance in life, just that point where you have that thought of like, I just threw away everything for nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if unless the person you were going over there to spend the rest of your life with was loaded, you're going to go have to get a job in a country that you're not from, and you're there illegally. You're not a citizen. You can't just go to another country and live there.
You're dead.
Yeah, it's well, even still, like dead or not, like even if you just okay, he's not dead. We realize he's over there. He's living happily with another woman. We know of 90 Day Fiance. You can't just live in another country.
Right.
You have to do the things. And most people, especially if this guy's part of a public investigation, you've seen on that show where even being on 90 Day Fiance affects these people's chances of getting visas. This guy trying to get a visa in Uzbekistan is going to go up there and be like, hey, I'd like to live here. You're the guy who faked his own death and abandoned his family. I'm not sure you're our kind of people. That's a lot.
Yeah. This was quite the story.
Well, and it really, coming to the spending aspect of it, it is like, I think they've spent enough money on this. The guy's alive. He didn't break any laws. Social norms, folklore, maybe he's broken a little bit of that. But
he's certainly broken moral code.
Absolutely. Yeah. But if we arrested people on moral, it'd be a lot more people in prison nowadays than should be. But it is. I think that there's a lot of wasteful spending in government as it is. Let's just put this one to bed. Like, all right, I'd like to know more, but I'd like to find out from the private investigators that I'm sure the family will hire to look further into this. I do not want them spending millions on a guy. If the guy robbed a bank, sure, maybe. I mean, but he didn't do anything. He
killed himself.
Right. He
didn't. So in the Jussie Smollett case, Jussie pinned it on other people, right? So like
someone was potentially going to go to jail for that.
Right. So at least in this case, it was totally on himself. It was like a tragic accident. He tried to make it look like. So yeah, like there's no victim, right, in this case, except for the
family,
state of Wisconsin, and the family,
the people who spent money,
right.
The makers of e-bikes and childhood inflatables. But nobody was
going to be wrongfully convicted, and
no, there was no evidence pointing at someone. So it was essentially a suicide at best, even though it was supposed to be an accidental death of some kind. I don't know. It's a terrifying thought that anyone would just up and do that when you could just get a divorce and leave.
Right. Because
you didn't leave with $1 million in your pocket. It's not like you were worried about protecting your assets. Oh, she'll get half if I divorce her. But if I kill myself, I'll have what's in my wallet. I can't use my credit cards. They said that he used a gift card. He bought a gift card at the airport of some kind that they assumed he used to buy some stuff so that it didn't have, you know what I mean? So he can't use his now, since he's not dead and they would never pronounce him dead, he can do whatever he wants. He can use his credit cards, but I'm sure the wife has access and just turn those bad boys off.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a real shitty person in general. I don't care what you got going on in your life. You're just an asshole. You had kids. You don't like your wife. Great. Get a divorce. Don't just, I just can't imagine. There's no part of me that would ever be wooed to another country and abandon my family. I'm a family guy. I like my family.
Well, and just lesson learned. First of all, it's pretty much damn near impossible to go off the grid. I think the story that I've heard of the person who got closest to not having a digital footprint in the modern age was Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. He lived in
And modern age being a relative term.
Because that was like the 70s or the 80s or
yeah,
something. Or
like,
no. Like,
no, it was like the
90s.
But like the internet was an infant. And you
but he purposefully lived in like a shack in the woods or something. Like he was pretty successfully off grid. Actually, the way he got turned in was his brother recognized his handwriting from like a sample that they released.
I would never recognize anyone's handwriting.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is the closest that I think I've ever heard of a criminal being nearly successful at living off the grid, not having a bank account and paper trail and all that stuff. It's incredibly hard to never have that. I think it's even harder to undo once you have had all that stuff. And I mean, from the moment you're born, you have a social security number, birth certificate. Most people do, like in the United
I would imagine,
States, you know? So you are on paper when you get married, you get a marriage license, you apply for credit card, this guy is on the books.
Yeah. I don't know how you would go about erasing your identity without,
government help.
Right.
Like,
well, there's
witness
that
protection.
And it's just you would have to basically you'd have to make a conscious choice years before you want to do this. You can't do this last minute, but you could. I imagine you would have to immediately stop using social media entirely. You'd have to deactivate all your accounts so no one can tag you on anything when you go somewhere. You would not be able to do anything app related. You'd have to switch. They still make burner shitty phones that don't have all the apps and stuff like that, but you would have to consciously uncouple. You would have to literally all your money, every transaction you have to be would be cash. You can't use your credit cards, any of that stuff. But if you do that long enough, if it's even worth it, what are you building towards at that point?
And I don't know if they mentioned what this guy did for a living because he didn't look like he was retirement age. I have so many questions on what was this guy's plan, I guess. I don't know.
Especially from that proof of life video, it doesn't seem like his plan paid off at all. Because, I mean, it'd be a whole different animal if he was like, here's me and my lady. Like, we got it. Like, enjoy the house, I guess.
Would that be better or worse if
I think for closure, I would like to know that there's a final nail in this. So we will address this again if there is further updates, but I'm just, as of where we are right now, there's just more questions than there are answers.
Well, so in a forum like this, a podcast where we take no taxpayer dollars to produce this, I would love an update if this guy wanted to go on Court TV or whatever, do an interview and give his reasonings for the backstory of how long were you talking to this woman? How long did it take you to plan? These are questions I want to know the answer.
Well, and that stuff has...
But I don't need to find out via, like, court or trial.
No,
or
I want get a PI in there.
Yeah.
Give me the deets. Just have somebody go in there and publish all the the conversations and stuff like that. Show me his crayon scrawled drawing of, like... Here's the lake, got to my e-bike, Wisconsin, Detroit, Canada. I want to see that little, like, the same thing you'd see, knock everything off the table and roll the map out.
Yeah.
I want to see that because he had to have had a diagram of this. You know what I mean? Like, to keep in his head, like, all right, it's going to be here, here, here. Like, everything was calculated. So you can't call this guy an idiot. He managed to pull the wool over people's eyes for a number of weeks before, of course, the internet caught up with him, as it does.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, we're currently, we'll consider it still an active investigation. I'm not certainly going to be investigating any more than watching what other people do, because that's not my place. But I'm very interested to see what comes of this. Yeah. And if we get enough that warrants more than just a general reference later on, like, Oh, it turns out the guy had that, what did Walter White had a fugue state in Breaking Bad. He pretended that he lost his whole thing for a whole weekend, and he ended up just wandering. Oh, I don't know what happened. Really, he was out cooking meth in a garage. But like, you know what I mean? Like we get some really half-assed like, shucks. I was trying to surprise you by getting you jewelry from Uzbekistan.
I want him to come back and go on Good Morning America and give an interview, and we could put it to bed then.
Yeah.
That's the ideal.
Well, that's where we are for now. Mm-hmm. I will say, on an unrelated note, we have received our first fan submission request for what we should talk about for an episode. So at one of these upcoming episodes, and I'll announce her name when we do the episode. She emailed us through the website, which any of you are able to do. Go on the website, go to the contact, feel free to fill it out and let us know what you would like us to discuss. She had asked that I talk about my time working for The Bachelor, which I worked for the TV show The Bachelor and its ancillary series for a number of years. And I could go on ad nauseum about some things for that show, but I'll touch upon it in an episode coming up, maybe the next one we talk about. But so just so you know, we will get to that. This is obviously only the third episode. Well, really the second episode of the show, but we will get to that in the coming weeks, as it were. So I just want people to know that the wheels are always moving around here.
So if you guys didn't already catch on to the schedule, Mondays is when our podcast is going to come out.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we got today. You got anything else to plug coming up?
No, that's it. Just, Christmas.
Christmas is coming up. We'll have probably 2-ish more episodes before we're going to go on a holiday. So we might not be around, but we'll still get some stuff out going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so other than that, I think we had a good one. I think we talked about some fun stuff. We got a lot planned going forward.
You might think that faking your death is mostly harmless, but it hurts a lot of people, so don't do it.
Don't hurt the kids.
Don't hurt the kids. Think of the children.
But everybody stay happy, stay healthy, and of course, as always,
do mostly no harm.